So, ladies and gentlemen, I was having major problems this morning with my web apps. So, I had to cancel the meeting for today. But what we're going to do is this. I'm going to briefly tell you what you need to do for this assignment. I want you to go ahead and do the assignment, and then we will go over it on Friday at our live meeting at 1. Okay? So, First Chapter Friday is usually Fridays at 1, but we're going to go over this lesson again on Friday at 1, like we would have today, had my computer apps not been messed up. So, today you're reading The Hill We Climb, or you're listening to The Hill We Climb by Amanda Gorman. She is the U.S. Youth Poet Laureate, and she was our inaugural poet this year at the presidential inauguration of Joe Biden. So, a couple questions I want you to think about is one, why might poets be tapped to read or speak at presidential inaugurations? And what might influence a president's choice of poets? So, what is an inaugural poem? Not all presidents have inaugural poets speak, but several have in the past several years. So, basically, in the U.S., elections provide regular opportunities for us to celebrate a peaceful transfer of power and reflect on our history. A peaceful transfer of power. So from voting to inauguration, each moment we have to voice our hopes for the community acts as a powerful way to think about how our individual values impact future of our governments, cultures, and civilizations. While art and literature have always played a meaningful part in shaping the history of our civilization, the inclusion of poetry at the presidential inauguration is relatively recent. Only 3 presidents, 4 now actually, John F. Kennedy in 1961, Bill Clinton in 93 and 97, Barack Obama in 2009, and Joe Biden now in 2021, have had poets read at their inaugurations. All of these presidents are known for their appreciation of reading and literature. In fact, if you follow Barack Obama on Twitter or Instagram, he regularly posts about books that he's reading that he likes and recommends. He also posts about music that he's listening to, a lot of it inspired by his daughters. So you can look out for that if you're interested. So in the past, Robert Frost, Maya Angelou, Miller Williams, Elizabeth Alexander, and Richard Blanco have spoken at inauguration, and a couple of weeks ago, Amanda Gorman read at the presidential inauguration. So if you want to read more about their poems and browse videos of them reading their inaugural poems, you can click here. And I took the information on this slide from poets.org, which is why it was not updated yet for Amanda Gorman when I made it. So our inaugural poet this year, Amanda Gorman, is only 22 years old. She's the youngest inaugural poet in U.S. history. She's also an award-winning writer and graduate of Harvard University, where she studied sociology. And sociology is the study of how people function in groups, how they think and work in groups. So I want you to go ahead and click here to learn more about Amanda Gorman. Okay, there's a little video here about who she is and her background, and I would like you to watch that, please. After you've done that, you are going to listen to her or watch her perform her inaugural poem called The Hill We Climb. So this is actually her at the inauguration this past year, and while you are watching her and listening to her deliver her poem, I want you to note 3 things in these boxes. What do you notice? Just in general, what do you notice about her poem, about the way she speaks, about the way that she delivers it? What do you notice? Write what you wonder, any questions you have about what she says or how she's reading it. And anything that stands out to you. If there's a particular line or passage or word usage that stands out to you, please note those things in these boxes. So you'll go ahead.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast.
Okay, so you are going to watch the whole thing. It's 6 minutes long, almost. After you have listened to the poem, watched the poem, in your own words, I want you to write on this slide what this poem is about. Tell me in your own words, what is this poem about? Then I want you to think about what is the significance of the poem's title. What might this hill signify in our democracy and why? Consider that when we talk about the government and Congress, we often talk about Capitol Hill. Capital C-A-P-I-T-O-L, Hill. So if you need a little nudge in the right direction, you might want to Google Capitol Hill and see what that means. But it also can have a double meaning. What is a hill? And why would we climb one? If you would like to look at, and I encourage you to look at the text, I have included the text here. So you just need to click and it should open up a Google Doc that has all of the words of her poem. You can even read along as you listen to her recite it if you'd like. Then I have 3 passages from the poem I want you to look at and consider. So the first passage, actually it's 2 passages. I ask you a couple questions about them. So this passage says, when day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what is just isn't always justice. So, what do you think is meant by the phrase, quiet isn't always peace? If you had to restate this idea in your own words, how would you say this? Can you think of a time when things have been quiet, but not peaceful? Mind you also, she wrote this poet after the storming of the Capitol on January 6th. Okay, so she actually wrote the poem between the storming of the Capitol and Inauguration Day on January 20th. Then considering the same passage, answer this question. Gorman writes that the norms and notions of what is just isn't always justice. What do you think this line means? And do you agree why or why not? So think about what justice means. And then look at this passage. We, the successors of a country and a time, were a skinny black girl, descended from slaves and raised by a single mother, can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. So this is the moment. Look for the moment when Gorman describes herself in this poem. It's right here, okay? How does she describe herself? Which of her own identities does she name? Why do you think she chooses to name these identities in this poem about American democracy? So remember, a democracy is supposed to be a form of government where the people have power. The average voter, the citizens, have power. On this slide, consider the following. How does Gorman describe what being American is or isn't? I want you to scan the rest of the poem for evidence. So you're going to click that link to open up, that also will open up the text of the poem in the Google Doc. List at least 3 specific lines that support your response. So find in this column, you're going to find 3 lines from the poem that either describe what it means to be an American or what it does not mean to be an American. And you're going to, you're going to type the line, exactly word for word, or copy and paste it right here. And then in the next column, you're going to tell us what you think it means to be American in your own words. So here, what does she say specifically, word for word, being American is or isn't? And then over here, in your words, what is she telling us? After considering what Gorman considers to be American, why do you think she describes it in this way? What, if anything, might you change about her description or add to it? So here's where you get to add your ideas about what it means to be American. Maybe you agree with her, maybe you disagree with her, maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe you have your own ideas that she hasn't even mentioned yet. And then at the end, your exit ticket is this. What do you think the overall message or theme of this poem is? Why do you think the Bidens chose Gorman to read this poem at the presidential inauguration? And remember, they chose her before the Capitol was stormed. Actually, Dr. Biden, okay, Joe Biden's wife, Dr. Biden, Jill Biden, is a teacher. She has a PhD in education, and she was the one who suggested Amanda Gorman. So think about that too. Why might she specifically have chosen this poet? And then choose 1 to 3 lines from the poem that affected you personally. Quote them here and explain why they vibe with you. Okay, choose 1 to 3 lines that affected you personally. Quote them here and explain why they vibe with you. And that is what we would have done today together online during our JAG Live if all of my apps would have been working. So I want you to go ahead and just do the assignment on your own today, and then on Friday at 1 o'clock, we are going to go over it together because this is a really important assignment, which is why I wanted to do it live. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I hope that you have a lovely day.